In 1983, the world's most elite athletes gathered for the most grueling foot race on Earth, a 544-mile ultramarathon from Sydney to Melbourne. They were sponsored, scientifically trained, and equipped with cutting-edge gear. But the man who would shatter their records didn't even own a pair of running shoes. He walked into the registration wearing overalls and gumboots. He had a slight limp, a weathered face, and he was 61 years old. The crowd thought it was a joke. The organizers feared he would die on the course. His name was Cliff Young. When asked what he was doing there, he replied, "I grew up on a farm. We couldn't afford horses. Whenever a storm was coming, I had to round up 2,000 sheep on foot. Sometimes that took 3 days." The elite runners, men in their 20s with sculpted muscles and sponsored tracksuits, laughed. They planned to run for 18 hours and sleep for 6. Cliff's plan? Just keep moving. The starting gun fired. The pros shot off the line like gazelles. Cliff shuffled behind them, looking like a man late for a bus. His strange, shuffling gait barely lifted his feet off the ground. By the end of the first day, the athletes were miles ahead. They ate high-energy meals, had massages, and slept in luxury tents. Meanwhile, Cliff kept shuffling into the cold, dark night. He didn't stop. Not at midnight, not at 2 a.m., not at dawn. While the professionals slept, the 61-year-old farmer was clocking miles in silence, his gumboots slapping against the asphalt. When the athletes woke up, they checked their watches and prepared to resume the race. Then, a news helicopter flew overhead with a shocking report. The old man in gumboots was leading. Cliff hadn't slept a single minute. He had run straight through the night. His shuffle wasn't a joke. It was a brutally efficient technique that conserved energy, allowing him to move while others rested. As the days passed, the young athletes began to break down. Their knees gave out. Their minds frayed. But Cliff, the man who chased sheep through the Victorian bush, just kept smiling. He didn't eat specialized gels. He survived on boiled potatoes and water. When reporters asked him about the pain, he said he was just imagining he was chasing a storm to save his sheep. On the 4th day, hallucinations set in for the other runners. One athlete thought he was being chased by a truck. Cliff was running alongside imaginary dogs, whistling to them. But Cliff's body was taking a beating. His gums were blistered. His legs were cramping. His overalls were soaked in sweat and dust. He looked like a man at the end of his life, yet he refused to stop. The nation of Australia was captivated. Radios and TVs stopped broadcasting regular programming to give updates on the running farmer. A country known for underdogs had found its greatest hero. 5 days, 15 hours, 4 minutes. Cliff Young crossed the finish line. He didn't just win, he shattered the previous record by nearly 2 days. The elite athletes were still 100 miles behind. Crowd erupted. But Cliff didn't understand the fuss. He was confused why everyone was making such a big deal, complaining that he could have run faster if he hadn't been talking to the reporters. He had just run 544 miles without sleeping. When offered a luxury bed, he politely declined, stating he would rather just walk around for a bit to stretch his legs. Cliff won $10,000 in prize money, a fortune in 1983, but he looked at the check and frowned. He felt bad for the other runners who had worked so hard, so he gave it all away. He kept $1,000 to buy a new tractor for his farm. He split the rest among the elite athletes who hadn't won a dime. They were floored by his generosity. He didn't run for money. He ran because he loved it. Cliff didn't stop there. He went on to run races until he was 76 years old. He set world records for his age group, always in his same overalls, always with that humble, shuffling gait. His technique, the Cliff Young shuffle, was studied by scientists. It was so brutally efficient that the winner of the very next Sydney to Melbourne race used it and beat Cliff's record. Cliff proved that the limits of human endurance aren't set by muscles or age, they are set by the mind, by a relentless, quiet stubbornness that refuses to yield. He never ran for fame. He never ran for money. He ran because he loved the rhythm of the earth under his feet. He ran because that is simply what his body was meant to do. In a world obsessed with high-tech gear and optimal performance, Cliff Young stood as a beautiful anomaly. A reminder that sometimes the greatest advantage you can have is simply not knowing you're supposed to lose. When asked for his advice to young runners, he simply said, "Don't let your fears stand in the way of your hopes." And then he went back to his farm. Cliff passed away in 2003 at the age of 81. But every time an ultramarathoner runs through the night without sleep, they are walking in Cliff's footsteps. The elite athletes had science, they had sponsors, they had youth, but Cliff had something stronger. He had the endurance of a farmer, the heart of a lion, and the pace of a man who just wanted to get home before the rain. Remember the 61-year-old in Gumboots. Remember that the only true limits are the ones you agree to. If you found this story inspiring, subscribe and keep shuffling toward your own finish line. Cliff didn't beat the world by being the fastest. He beat the world by never stopping. Take that into your day. Take that into your life. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe for more incredible true stories, and let us know in the comments, what is your Sydney to Melbourne race? I'll see you in the next one.